So if you watched my last video covering Neca's Gargoyles line, specifically this Demona figure, you know that myself as well as many other collectors are frustrated with this large wing design that in Demona's case doesn't even work for a lot of us. Neca's answer to solve this problem for a lot of us is supposed to be within this Bronx action figure that includes folded wings for Goliath. So the question is, does it fix the Neca Gargoyles line? We'll try to answer that question on this episode of Geek Dad Life. Hello everybody and welcome to Geek Dad Life. It's your host, Jay Gladfelter here. Alright, if you watched the last episode on my Demona figure, you know that I had reached the breaking point with these wings on these gargoyle figures. They are so large and outstretched that it makes it nearly impossible to put on your toy shelves. And the Demona figure, while she looks incredible from a sculpting and paint perspective, the engineering on her wings is even worse. The short pegs make it nearly impossible for her to hold those wings upright, as well as the way they constructed those wings has led to breakage and other QC issues that has a lot of collectors frustrated. Neca's answer to those frustrations is contained within this action figure set. Yes, we're getting a highly articulated, painted, and detailed Bronx figure who was the Gargoyles' loyal, dog-like character. But since he is a smaller character, they have chosen to pack in Goliath's folded wings, how he drapes them kind of over his shoulders, with this Bronx set. I think it's a clever idea. It allows you to have a smaller character, get a relatively large accessory for around the same price point as all the other Gargoyles figures. Now, the other side of that, from a collector's perspective, may be like, well, why do I have to spend this much to fix a problem with a figure that I've already spent money on? And I think that's a fair critique of this set and really the Gargoyles line as a whole, but at least they are putting these wings in here to give us those alternate wing options that we've been asking for. Now, I readily admit that after my Demona figure, I was done with the Neca Gargoyles line. But good friend of the channel, Hung Win, was able to find this Bronx set and sent it to me as a gift for my birthday. So while I was done picking these up, the fact that I was going to have this figure in hand, I thought it was only fair to see if this set could be that saving grace for this toy line for all of the people that are frustrated with the large wings, myself included. So, did this set do that? Well, kinda. For starters, it felt a little absurd to be more excited about a packed-in accessory than the actual figure that we were getting, and don't get me wrong, I think this is a fantastic Bronx figure. It, looks a lot like the character that we saw on the screen. Again, it's a little bit more hyper-realistic or more muscular than we saw in the animated series, but still, it looks a lot like the character. There's great articulation throughout. I also love it has, a little articulated tail. The way they did the neck articulation I thought was pretty cool, as well as the ball joint for the head. And the head sculpt that it was packed with has an articulated jaw. So I really feel like, this is a really darn good Bronx figure. Now, would it have been worth that, pushing $40 price point that these Gargoyles go for now? Probably not without those wings, but again, that's probably why they packed them with this set. But still, I think overall, when you're looking at this Bronx figure, it's a really fantastic figure. His accessories are pretty cool. He's got himself a stick of meat.
That's what she said.
As well as an alternate head sculpt that I guess has a wider mouth. It's kind of the only way you can fit his meat in his mouth. Other than that, it's not a really necessary extra head sculpt, because I think the articulated jaw on the kind of the main head sculpt does the trick for me. It kind of gives you all the different looks that you would want for this Bronx figure. So it's a pack-in that I just don't think is that necessary. And for his last accessory, or really Goliath's accessory, or is it actually Goliath's draped wings with Bronx as the accessory? I'll let you decide. Let me know in the comments. But the winged accessory is pretty good. I mean, honestly, I wish this was maybe with the Goliath figure. Maybe that would make it a little bit more expensive, but I think us as collectors maybe would be okay with that. I'm not sure. But now that I have this on the Goliath, I think it's a much more versatile action figure. I feel comfortable standing it on a shelf now. I've kind of had Goliath standing with Bronx. My Demona, doesn't get to be there because she can't, even hold her wings up. But, for a figure that was kind of put away because of how big the wings are, I now feel more inclined to display this Goliath figure because, it actually looks good. It has the great sculpt that was there before, but it actually has a more functional wing attachment that makes it, a more enjoyable figure to display in my collection. And I think the same will be true for collectors all over. That's not to say that this thing is without its flaws. In my eyes, there was some paint smudges and things along those lines. It's kind of run-of-the-mill or par for the course with NECA toys in general. If you've collected turtles or other things, the paint is not always the best. And the second issue for me with these wings is that, they're too long still. I think there's kind of these edges that kind of taper off to the side, and, it's too long. The thing that's better here, though, is the wings are really flexible. It's much more rubbery. So even though I think these tips go too long, to the side, it's much easier to kind of move it around and manipulate it when you're kind of displaying the figures than the really rigid, outstretched wings that we've gotten on the other Gargoyles figures. So again, I don't know why they need to make them this long. As I go back and look at clips from the show, when they're draped over his arms, they don't go out that far, but whatever. I at least we're getting the draped wings here. And again, I do think it's a much needed accessory for these Gargoyles figures, and it's a shame we didn't have it from the start, but at least they have found a way to get them to us. So does this Bronx figure save NECA Gargoyles for collectors, or more specifically for me as a toy collector? And I think the answer is kind of yes. I do enjoy the figure more now. I'm able to display it, which is, the main reason why we buy these things. But on the whole, I still think there's a lot of flaws here that make me not fully bought into this toy line. I think it's, I'm not a never again. I'm in a wait and see mode with these figures, because the ones that they've announced so far that are coming, the pictures that we've seen, the wings are still the fully outstretched kind of gliding version of the wings, which I don't want. And I'm so thankful we got these draped wings packed in with the Bronx figure. But what's the solution for all the other Gargoyles characters? What's the solution for Demona? What's the solution for all of them? I haven't seen that yet. So with NECA Gargoyles, I'm a wait and see. Maybe they'll do some type of like deluxe set that has all of the main Gargoyles characters with, alternate wing options. We've seen them do it with other toy line properties that they do, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So maybe they'll do the same with Gargoyles, and we'll finally get the versions of these characters that a lot of us want. But until then, I'm going to be putting the NECA Gargoyles toy line on pause and actually shifting my focus to the vintage Gargoyles toy line. I can get all of the characters that I love from the original TV show. I can display them easily. There's vehicles. There's an awesome castle playset. And, instead of being frustrated with the approach here to these NECA Gargoyles figures, I'm going to have a lot of fun trying to get every single Kenner Gargoyles figure that I want for my collection. So the finale to this journey of Gargoyles toy collecting is going to be a video about all of the Kenner Gargoyles toys that were made to support the cartoon back in the day. That is what I am choosing to focus my time, energy, and money on as a toy collector. And if you want to see that video when it drops, click the subscribe button and that bell icon to make sure you don't miss it. Definitely check out some of my other videos like this one that YouTube wants you to check out, and one of my more recent videos. And until next time, hasta luego and goodbye.